Forex crisis. Market has proposed between 680 and 720 naira per litre of PMS. They have also suspended fuel imports. Tough times for Nigeria, and indeed is set to get tougher, isn't it? Welcome to Business Daily. I am Yusuf Akogo. We take our business top stories. Glad to have you back. Now we'll quickly give you highlights of how the stock market went down on Friday. Indeed, the market closed negative, of course, at positive 0.18% on Friday, and the volume of trade 48.690 million volume. The value at 8.362 billion naira in a deals of nearly 6,000 deals, 5,804 deals there on the floor of the market. And of course, the all share index is still way above 65,000 basis points. We look at the gainers quickly. Of course, the like of course, SC Freight also gaining 9.96% on the day to close at 76 naira 20 kobo there. Of course, Computer Warehouse Group, of course, CWG gaining 9.82% to close at 3 naira and 2 kobo. Of course, GlaxoSmithKline, one of the company that is set to leave Nigeria after 51 years of operations, gaining 9.78% to close at 10 naira, of course, 10 kobo. We look at the losers on the day, of course, Enamelwa, of course, gaining, losing 10% on the day, of course, to close at 17 naira 55 kobo. Of course, Veritas Capital losing 10% as well, 27 kobo it ended on the day. Prestige Assurance also losing 9.80 to also close at 46 kobo per share on Friday. We look at the top traded equities. Of course, Sterling Bank is there. 86.1 million volume of that company shares were traded. Of course, Transcorp Nigeria 66.6 million volume of shares, and of course, Universal Insurance PLC traded 54.8 million volume of shares is traded on the day. We look at the rest of Africa. Of course, most of them largely in red. The Joburg Stock Exchange in South Africa is down 0.14%. And of course, if we go down here in Ghana, our next door neighbor, 1.76%. That is a huge loss there. It recorded on Friday. We go to Nairobi Stock Exchange in Kenya, East Africa. It is down 0.47%. It went down on Friday. As usual, the trading is on right now across major markets on the continent. Of course, we'll give you update all the update that you need to know live on Business Daily right here. But right now, we're going to go on a very short break. Where we come back, we'll go into our discussion, and we're looking at how the public service can actually be repositioned to support the economic growth and reforms of the current administration. Don't go away. Glad to have you back. It's still Business Daily right here on Trust Television. And now we're going into our discussion. Today we are looking at how the public service can be repositioned to support economic growth and development of the federal government. And I have the right person in the studio to discuss this. Dr. Dasuki Arabi is the Director General, Bureau of Public Service Reforms, BPSR. Glad to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Your
thank
agency,
you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. Your agency is more like an agency set up to appraise the performance of other government parastatals. Tell us how well you've been able to deliver on this mandate.
Well, thank you very much. Our mandates include, among many other things, to engage with the citizens, provide information on governance and government activities, initiate reforms, coordinate reforms, monitor reforms, and do monitoring and evaluation of reform initiatives. So we initiate reforms, then other agencies of government and ministries have the privilege to initiate their own. But looking at the structure of the leadership and monitoring of the work that we do, there are two structures. We have the National Council on Reforms that has the president and the all members of the Federal Executive Council as members, and the secretary to the government is the secretary, BPSR is secretariat. The other committee is Standing Committee on Reforms, SGF is chair, head of service is deputy chair. We have key permanent secretaries and directors general as members, BPSR secretariat. The essence of this background is for our audience to know that whatever initiative is introduced by us or by government is wholly owned by the entire government at every particular time.
Absolutely.
So for the purpose of ownership, we work in a symbiotic relationship, and all of us work together. These are the things that we have done. History is indeed very nice and kind to us. In 2004, when we started working, I think our focus was around...
That was when you began operation?
Yes, when BPSR was created. How do we simplify governance? How do we ensure prudent management of government resources?
Absolutely.
How do we fight corruption? How do we open the system? How do we use technology to advance the service delivery processes in ministries, departments, and agencies of government? So these are some of the things that we've been doing over the years. For the purpose of history, initially we had a transition council on reforms, then the Bureau of Public Service Reforms came on board. And to support the work that we've been doing, we've been driving what we call the National Strategy on Public Service Reforms, which has 4 pillars. Pillar 1 is looking at the environment of work for the public service, and we call it enabling government and institutional reforms. How well ministries, departments, and agencies of government stewarded? How clear are their roles and responsibilities? How can people hold them responsible and accountable?
Yes.
Now, for the purpose of this discussion today, you can't improve generation of revenue, fortunes of businesses in a country when you are not able to reform or touch 3 or 4 things. 1 is fighting corruption. 2, opening the system. 3, looking critically at the tax generation system, management, and justification of the resources government is able to generate.
Actually.
Yes.
Let's look at it. It's quite an elaborate work that you are actually handling, and I must really commend you for that. But in terms of tracking, how are you able to track the performance of some of these MDAs?
Well, it is very difficult it was difficult to track. With the advancement and use of technology in public service, it becomes very easy for us. Now, we have an M&E framework that we use at the end of virtually every year to track performance of ministries, departments, and agencies of government, vis-a-vis the KPIs are set for them. Beyond that, we do what we call impact assessments and perception surveys of reform initiatives.
And most of these things are done digitally?
Yes, they are done digitally.
Okay.
Now, to see how far have we gone in implementing our reforms, and to get the feel of the citizens, whether they are really aware that reforms are taking place and they can feel the impact of that. At the end of the work that we do, we publish books and policy briefs to advise government that, okay, we have done monetization policy in the last 10 years. Now, after our research, we have seen that a lot of journalists working for government media outfits are not accommodated near their offices. So there's that risk now, because they travel from Okanga or from Suleja to come. What do we need to do to address that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so these are some of the things that we do to track. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the succession plan in MDAs.
Yes.
It's another area that is somehow difficult to understand, or it slow down productivity sometimes. How do you handle that area?
Yes. If you look at that same document, National Strategy on Public Service Reforms,
yes,
it has 4 pillars. Enabling environment, socio-economic activities, public financial management, which is management of resources. Then pillar 4 is looking at civil service administration. And that is where we have the head of service strategy 2021, I think 2025. Now, under that, we have introduced performance management as a policy of government. You remember that the former government signed an executive order on performance management.
Absolutely.
Now, to support the performance management, we need to ensure that the e-government master plan of federal government comes into place. Digitalization of records, connectivity, and others. Linked to that, we have introduced succession planning and mentorship within the public service. You have seen that before, quite a number of occasions, somebody will retire from the service and he'll be asked to come back and work for 2-3 years before he tutor or he can hold a junior officer term. Now we're saying this has become a policy of federal government. It has been institutionalized, and ministries, departments, and agencies of government must do that. And just as good speakers of management have spoken, if I'm in BPSR, my hope and prayer is, as I'm exiting, I have formed a foundation that will make it easy for whoever is coming up to me to take over. And I'll be glad to say that on my exit, it has moved on even better than the way it was when I was around. Without good succession planning in place, this cannot happen. So we used to have these problems, but we are working very, very seriously on that to make sure that everybody keys into that. And it's part of those things that we are saying we need to reskill and upskill the performance of our workers so that we'll be able to deliver optimally 21st century public service.
Absolutely interesting. Let's look at the level of collaboration between government agencies. Recently, I was at an event where your agency and NEPC came together to educate Nigeria on the importance of non-export. Can you talk to us more about the level of collaboration you are having with other sister agencies and the impact it's having on the economy?
Yes, the BPSI belongs to the public service. In size, we are very, very small. So everything that we are doing, sector-wise, sector players are invited to come during the kickoff, the crafting of the strategy and the program. So we seriously work hand in hand with all of them. Now you hear me talking a lot about digitalization. BPSI is not NIDA, it's not Galaxy, it's not NCC, it's not Ministry of Digital Economy, but where we work collaboratively together, they are into us and we're into them. Now the same thing with NEPC and other agencies of government, especially our studies have shown that the common man on the street doesn't know who is an exporter. He doesn't know who is Minister of Trade. He doesn't know who is the President of Nigeria. Absolutely. All what he knows is there is an agency called Export Promotion Council, and that council is his point of first contact with Nigerians. So we try to work with them to encourage them to deliver on their mandate, but most importantly, to provide information and guidelines on their activities and we focus on any Export Promotion Council because the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu said during his inauguration that we'll look at export. We'll look at value addition of our products before we export. That was why Export Promotion Council became a center of attraction, and we brought them closer. Of course, you can see the information that you rail out, lots of economic problems.
Absolutely.
The way out is to look inwards, add value, send these things out so that we'll earn more foreign exchange and will not be subject to remittances by diaspora back home.
Absolutely. Interesting submission there. Let's look at, you have a mandate. You are a federal government agency.
Yes.
I'm sure your mandate is for the whole country. Let's look at the level of collaboration you're having with various states of the federation. How well are you cooperating with state governments to deliver on some of these mandates?
Well, we have tried over the years to make sure that we work with them, to make sure that they buy into what we are doing.
And how positive are the response?
In Abuja and Federal Public Service, we're about 2.7 million or so. Out of 210 million, it's almost an insignificant figure. A greater percentage of Nigerians are within the states, and within the states, within the local government. So whatever reform initiatives we initiate at the federal, if it's not cascaded down to the states and local governments, it will be of no or little impact to the citizens. So we have been working with the states. Recently, we just walked into an agreement with University of Lagos and London Business School to run a lot of sensitization programs for the governors, members of the House of Reps and the senators, local government chairmen, and state assembly members, for them to key into the reform initiatives at the federal level so that we all feel the impact of this. We had worked many years ago with Lagos State Government under the leadership of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where the entire public service in Lagos has been reformed and is as good as what we have at the federal level. And in Lagos, they have what they call the Down Commission, which is an organization set up by them to drive reforms within the southwestern states. We've been working with them over the years, and recently we were just delivered of a baby. Ogun State Bureau of Public Service Reforms was created by the Ogun State governor, and we are glad they are keen in directly into our reform initiatives. But the first state the second state that did that after Lagos was Kaduna State, and I can see, you can feel it, everybody can feel it within the business space, that Kaduna State have improved their GDP, they have digitalized their process, they've done quite a number of things that we did at the federal. The same thing with Gombe State. They have created their own Bureau of Public Service Reforms, and they're doing very well. You can see the ranking on ease of doing business and others, all going to Gombe State. So we are seeing this as partners working with us, and we are showcasing them as role models. Very soon we are going to ask one of the states to host us for a review session of reforms in Lagos, Ogun, Kaduna, and Gombe states to assess the impact of this. And I'll use this medium to call on the states again that have not done that to key in, and will always be there to help them, to support them and push them.
Indeed, you have really made inroad into various states. Let's look at, I'm sure you must have conducted some impact assessments.
Yes.
Let's look at what are the results, what results are you getting, and how will it affect the overall development of the country?
Well, some of the results we are getting are good, some are not good.
So good.
When we did some survey around youth unemployment, the results that came were negative. To them in the field, they felt government was not and is not doing anything about youth unemployment. And we tried to show them that these are the things government has said, but we can't fill them. Even to get the questionnaires completed was not an easy task yes, for them. So what we need to do as a result of that was to quickly put up a position paper to government. Say, we have these programs that we are doing, 750,000 youth unemployment programs. Ministry of Humanitarian is doing quite a lot, Central Bank is doing, but very few Nigerians are aware of that. So we are working with the Ministry of Information and Culture to get every MDA to produce their own strategic communication document that will show them how important it is and why they must communicate their activities with the citizens. If we're able to do that, the results that we got wouldn't have been different. When we did some research and survey on power reforms, a greater percentage of people that we interviewed didn't really understood and felt that there was any reform around power. But when you get to the elite class in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, they are aware, yes, reforms have taken place, private sector have keyed in, a lot of economic activities have taken place, non-government companies, PPP, everything is coming into power. But there, in example, Benue State, a lot of them said they don't know anything about it. They've not seen it.
Absolutely.
They can't feel it.
Doctor, before we go, let's look at the civil service. Some say it's overbloated, less productive, and it's more like a burden to the government, taking a lot from government in terms of expenditure. What do you think can be done in this regard to make the public service more productive?
My boss, Dr. Joaba, never believes that is overbloated, just the same way that I do.
Okay.
I was reading Professor Tunji Olokpa's article on Daily Trust newspaper. He had his own tunations on that too. So what I think we should look at is what is cost of governance, what is government, what is public service, and what is civil service. Now, so government is an institution created to provide security, judiciary, ensure law and order, management of resources of government, and citizens are asking for those things because they are paying taxes.
Taxes, exactly.
And what is the process of doing that? So government collects tax, and they use the tax to pay their workers that provide public service, make sure that the country and institutions of government are working. So I don't think that civil servants or public servants are that a burden. They are an asset to us. As a human resource manager, every human being that is working is more important than the money when we look at yes, when we look at it. So what I think we need to do is, COVID-19 has come to render a lot of our programs, the way we work, almost useless. So what we just need to do is to rejig the service delivery process so that we get the best out of them. We can't do this without reskilling and upskilling the performance of public servants. You can see a lot of capacity development programs being run by Public Service Institute, ASCON, Center for Management Development, to ensure that we have reskilled them and they will be ready to deliver just the way you want them to deliver.
Absolutely. I must thank you, Doctor. Sometimes time is always not to your friend when we're having fun. There's quite a whole lot to talk about. I think we'll have part 2 of this discussion. I must thank you, Dr. Dazuki Arabi, Director General, Bureau of Public Service Reform, BPSR, for your time on Business Daily. We appreciate your coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yes,
and
sir.
we look forward to the second invitation.
Absolutely. Certainly, sir.
Thank you.
With that is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back tomorrow. I am Yusuf Akogun.